The betrayal did not come from across the border. It came from inside the command room itself. While global attention stayed fixed on Burkina Faso's fight against insurgents, a senior officer was quietly funneling classified material to Western intelligence contacts. Coordinates, procurement plans, operational timelines, nothing was held back. President Ibrahim Traoré detected the leak, but instead of ordering an immediate arrest, he chose a path few anticipated. He turned the traitor into a weapon. 4 months, false intelligence flowed straight into European and American channels, convincing them they were steering events from behind the curtain. They were not. When Traoré finally acted, he did more than expose a mole. He revealed how modern power takedowns actually work. By late 2025, sensitive information was seeping out of the presidential compound in Ouagadougou. This was not hacking or intercepted signals. It was classic human intelligence. An insider seated at the highest table, present for closed-door strategy sessions and confidential talks with Mali and Niger, was feeding foreign handlers in real time. The details were precise. Troop movements along the northern frontier. Delivery windows for heavy equipment. Internal debates about expelling the final French military advisors. This was not distant surveillance. It was an internal effort to collapse the state from within. Traoré, who took power in September 2022 amid public fury over terrorism and outside interference, faced an enemy tanks could not stop. The threat wore the same uniform as his loyalists. At the same time, the country was tightening its security posture. Burkina Faso aligned with Mali and Niger to form the Alliance of Sahel States, cutting reliance on Western structures such as ECOWAS and asserting regional self-defense. France, long dominant in the region's military affairs, was pushed out. American drone operations came under scrutiny. The message was clear. The Sahel would decide its own fate. But sovereignty depends on trust, and that trust had been breached at the core. These leaks were not embarrassing mistakes. They cost lives. When hostile forces learn of an operation before the unit commander does, the outcome is predictable. Ambushes. Failed raids. Growing doubt among soldiers who begin to question whether leadership is incompetent or compromised. Traoré could not allow that perception to stand. His legitimacy rested on the promise of independence and security. If he could not secure his own headquarters, the promise collapsed. This was not simple espionage. It was a contest for control. The mole was not only transmitting data. He was shaping a narrative for outsiders. Identifying pressure points. Suggesting where to strike. Building justification for sanctions or intervention. This individual was a critical component in a wider plan to undermine Sahelian autonomy. A public crackdown would have been disastrous. It would signal panic, fracture the military during active combat operations, and hand Paris and Washington a ready-made story of instability. So Traoré disappeared into silence. Access narrowed. Information became strictly compartmentalized. Loyal operatives were quietly repositioned. The investigation unfolded without noise, tracking responses to planted information and waiting for a decisive misstep. This story reaches beyond one country. It shows that modern takeovers do not always involve armored vehicles in the streets. Often they begin with private meetings, leaked files, and secure foreign contacts. Power in this era is tested less by firepower than by loyalty. When Traoré's guard finally detained the officer in early 2025, it was not a reaction in the heat of the moment. It was the endpoint of a long covert operation. No leaks. No show trials. No sweeping purges. Only sustained surveillance and timing. The man they caught knew everything. Exact troop locations along the northern combat zone. Supply chains bypassing Western oversight. Alliance planning with Mali and Niger designed to dismantle lingering colonial-era security frameworks. His knowledge made him valuable. That value made him a target. Western intelligence networks have been embedded in the Sahel for decades. French operations such as Barkhane and Serval created relationships that did not vanish when bases closed. The United States entrenched itself through drone campaigns and training programs. When leaders like Traoré began pushing back, those networks adapted by recruiting insiders within the very governments challenging them. Evidence confirmed it. Encoded communications flowed from the officer to European centers. Detailed assessments of internal disputes over severing Western defense ties. Profiles of which units were loyal and which could be fractured. This was high-grade operational intelligence delivered to powers determined to sabotage Burkina Faso's independence drive. Traoré faced a choice. Arrest the officer publicly and expose vulnerability, or reverse the flow. He chose the second. The officer stayed active, but the information stream was controlled. False troop movements. Fabricated delivery schedules. Invented political rifts. Foreign handlers believed their source remained intact. Their decisions were now based on fiction. This misdirection bought time and space. It allowed Burkina Faso to operate without external interference shaping outcomes. And it revealed more than one spy. Each planted falsehood was designed to trigger a response. Every reaction exposed another node in the foreign influence network. Within weeks, patterns emerged. Certain stories triggered panic in Paris. Others shifted American surveillance assets over the tri-border region. Rumors of alliance fractures reached echoish channels almost instantly. The architecture of influence became visible. Rather than announce victories, authorities dismantled the network quietly. Officials were reassigned. Clearances revoked. Foreign intelligence channels were flooded with useless data. The goal was not to end espionage entirely, which is unrealistic in a contested region. The goal was to make it expensive, confusing, and ineffective. This strategy holds regional implications. Across the Sahel, leaders challenging external dominance are learning that dismantling inherited systems takes more than rhetoric. Mali expelled French forces but still battles insurgency and economic pressure. Niger severed defense ties with Washington and faced isolation. Burkina Faso is attempting a different balance. Limited diplomacy outward. Hardened defenses inward. Eventually the government went public. Timing mattered. By then, the damage to foreign networks was already done. Channels were exposed. Handlers burned. Intelligence pipelines poisoned. Agencies that believed they controlled events in Ouagadougou were left questioning months of faulty analysis. This disclosure challenged the dominant narrative about instability in the Sahel. It suggested that chaos is not merely the result of poor leadership, but often engineered by external actors seeking leverage. The reaction was immediate. Allies in Mali praised the operation. Leaders in Niger saw confirmation of their own suspicions. The alliance of Sahel states gained justification for breaking from Western security frameworks. Traoré emerged not as a brute suppressing dissent, but as a strategist who neutralized threats without destabilizing his own system. No mass arrests. No panic. Observation, patience, reversal. Across Africa, leaders facing economic pressure, covert interference, and political isolation are studying this case closely. It offers a method. Detect infiltration. Control it. Exploit it. Then expose it on your terms. The risks remain high. Acknowledging such an operation alerts adversaries. Retaliation remains possible through sanctions, proxy violence, or economic warfare. Yet the message is clear. Burkina Faso is no longer reactive. It is shaping the field. The broader question now extends beyond one nation. External interference will continue. The issue is whether African states can detect it, counter it, and change the balance. Traoré has wagered that controlled transparency strengthens sovereignty rather than weakens it. The outcome of that gamble will determine not only Burkina Faso's future, but whether the Sahel's pursuit of independence survives the unseen battles waged against it.